Salcajá, Guatemala is a thriving town in the country's western highlands, a town built on immigration to the United States. As recently as last year, 89% of the young people in Salcajá had plans to migrate north, according to the International Organization for Migration. Head north to join tens of thousands of others who have formed communities in states like New Jersey where they would work, save, and send money back home. It is typical of thousands of communities in Guatemala whose economies depend on money sent back home by migrants. Some have made the journey legally, others illegally. Migrants are so important to Salcajá that the town erected a large monument to them on its main highway. But these days, that statue is wearing a protective face mask. The age of coronavirus has severely affected traditional immigration patterns, disrupting the flow of money sent back home. And more ominously, a United States decision to deport migrants back to Guatemala during the coronavirus crisis has thrown a wrench into the country's efforts to contain the spread of the pandemic. Recent deportation flights run by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Service have brought back dozens of migrants that were infected by the virus in detention centers in the United States. Guatemalan officials denounced that nearly half of the deported migrants on one flight were found to be infected with coronavirus. President Alejandro Yamatei made the announcement on one of his nightly national addresses.
Nosotros estamos haciendo todo lo que está en nuestras manos para poder detener el flujo de deportados que no vengan garantizados, tal y como los protocolos que convenimos con los Estados Unidos sean cumplidos.
The Guatemalan government eventually stopped allowing deportee flights into the country, and the United States announced a donation aimed at helping care for coronavirus-infected patients. But experts say the damage has already been done. The Department of Chimaltenango, home to several communities where at least one infected deportee was sent, has the largest number of community contact infections in the country, a number that rises exponentially each passing week. And violence against returned immigrants is on the rise. Townspeople in one community in the highlands gathered to protest when a government ambulance returned a deported immigrant to his home after he had passed a mandatory 14-day quarantine and had twice tested negative for the coronavirus. But the protests were so intense, the man was forced to leave the community.
Personas agredieron o trataron de agredir al alcalde, a su familia y a una persona que había retornado a su casa, pese a que esa persona llevaba un certificado de que le había sido hecha la prueba, que había estado en cuarentena y que no representa ningún riesgo para la salud de los ciudadanos. Hace unos meses, muchos se alegraban porque les venía el cheque de la remesa. Hoy, a esa persona que mandó los cheques, los están tratando como delincuentes.
Already nervous officials around the country are intensifying measures to control who enters their towns.
Gracias a Dios.
Santiago Pérez is the mayor of Aldea Paxtocá in the Western Highlands.
Anteriormente habíamos recibido, ¿verdad?, el llamado de algunos migrantes quienes han ingresado a nuestra comunidad, en la cual pues tuvimos la coordinación con el Ministerio de Salud para poder pues llevar un protocolo, ¿verdad?, tanto para poder pues ver, ¿verdad?, el estado de ellos, y gracias a Dios pues se ha tenido esa coordinación, y asimismo ahora se tomó una medida, ¿verdad?, pues por parte de la corporación, ¿verdad?, poder dar a conocer a quienes seguramente pues han viajado fuera de nuestra comunidad, de poder pedirles, ¿verdad?, de que no pudieran ingresar, porque estamos viendo, ¿verdad?, de que varios de las personas que están ingresando en nuestro país pues ya vienen infectados con la enfermedad. Entonces se hizo un publicado de que pues se le pidiera, ¿verdad?, de que no poder ingresar mientras de que estamos en esta situación.
The city of Quetzaltenango, home to nearly 200,000 people, hosts one of several regional field hospitals temporarily set up to treat coronavirus patients. It is the hometown of tens of thousands of migrants, and as a regional hub, the city has also become the destination of recently deported migrants who are transported there after arriving in the country, a next stop on their journey home.
Porque todos se quieren proteger, Entonces, cuando mandan denuncias...
Juan Fernando Lopez is the recently elected mayor. He is tasked with ensuring the safety of his city.
Me oponía totalmente a que vinieran a dejar a los inmigrantes de todo el país a Quetzaltenango. Nosotros podemos recibir a los nuestros, mas no así a lo de los demás departamentos que realmente se quedan acá deambulando en Quetzaltenango. Y si ustedes se dan cuenta, todos los contagiados, los que han salido positivos, son inmigrantes. Entonces, la pena es esa, que vengan y que nos sigan negando. No estamos violando los derechos humanos de nadie. Estamos velando por nuestros derechos humanos, por nuestra salud. Entonces, no le estamos dando el derecho a nadie que entre a Quetzaltenango. Todos son bienvenidos, todos del mundo. Quetzaltenango es muy conocido. Pero hoy tenemos que tener reglas y no nos queremos morir todos.
Tiziano Breda is a regional analyst with the Crisis Group. He says the recent deportation to Guatemala of infected migrants represents a dangerous added burden to officials using limited resources to handle the pandemic.
First of all, it adds a layer of political pressure to governments that are already facing a lot of pressure to step up their efforts in improving the ill-equipped and ill-prepared health system and that they have in their countries. They're facing a lot of pressure to balance out the containment measures, strict containment measures to avoid the contagion, and some sort of measures that prevent the economy from collapsing. And alleviate the suffering of the people that have lost their job or live off informality, etc. So that's one realm of political pressure that these countries have to face. And secondly, of course, there's a more direct risk of really spreading the virus into these countries since we're already seeing that in ICE detention facilities in the US, the virus is spreading. There's Mexico has implemented very more lax policies to prevent and test and see where the virus is going in the country. And we've already seen at least 3 cases of Guatemalan deportees testing positive to the virus. So there's a concrete risk that if this process of deportation is not done in an ordered manner and with some precaution, that could also mean a potential risk for contagion or spread of the virus.
That risk is already a reality. The government has attributed the exponential rise in positive coronavirus cases directly to deported migrants who were infected in detention centers in the United States. Immigration activists are concerned not only about the spread of the virus among the general population, but about the stigma returned migrants are facing. Mauro Verselletti is a Catholic priest who runs a shelter for undocumented migrants in Guatemala City. He and his colleagues normally care for dozens of people every week as they make their way from other Central American countries north to the border with Mexico and beyond to the United States. He has also become a powerful advocate for migrant rights.
Y sabemos que las comunidades del país ya se están alterando por esta forma de que el gobierno de norteamericano está operando en el traslado de personas y sabemos que ha habido casos que se ha diagnosticado el COVID-19 y que realmente esto pone en riesgo la salud y sabemos que existe un gran esfuerzo de parte del gobierno de Guatemala. Sin embargo, tanto el gobierno de México y de Estados Unidos no están colaborando en este momento porque son personas insensibles, son personas que realmente no quieren trabajar para el bien común.
The U.S. government has not commented publicly on the incidence of coronavirus infections among deported migrants beyond announcing it was donating close to $3 million to help Guatemala deal with the pandemic. Deportation flights have also been stopped temporarily. But with the current rate of infections rising exponentially, those measures might be too little too late. And communities that depend on immigration as a source of economic livelihood might see those migrants whose work once helped put food on the table as more of a menace, unwitting as it may be.
al otro lado, señor.